our first position really wasn't so much a compromise. We don't want Obamacare. We think it's a bad idea and going to hurt people, so we offered to get rid of it completely. But that didn't pass, and so we offered a compromise to say, look, you've been delaying other parts of it. Why don't we delay the whole thing for a year? That, I think, is a compromise position.
And I am afraid that the American people, as they have in the past, will blame Congress, i.e. Republicans. And what's particularly disappointing is that Obamacare is going to have a lot of problems in its rollout. The president's polling numbers are falling in every category, and yet the story is to the American people that Republicans are fighting Republicans. That's not helpful.
So it feels like we're in a spin cycle, if you will, Dave, with not only Democrats and Republicans fighting amongst themselves, but also Republican versus Republican. And we're seeing here on Capitol Hill a lot of tourists, not only from across the country, but from around the world, really just caught off guard by this government shutdown. Of course, all the Smithsonian Institution museums have been shut down. A lot of tourist sites are closed today, so they're kind of walking around asking reporters like myself, even photographers, what the world is going on here in Washington. And we're also hearing from local residents as well, and I want to bring into our coverage now a conversation with Gordon Hay. You're a local resident. You're not a federal worker, but you have many friends who work for the federal government, and you were expressing to another person here on the sidewalk your frustration. What is your view today? Who do you blame for this government?
The fact that it seems that the Republicans and Democrats, at least for the last 2 years, now that we've got a poll coming out, 90% is not in favor of this shutdown. Obamacare is now the law, whether they like it or not, it's the law at this point. So this is a Congress that is not able to govern this country. They're just totally ineffective. There's increasing frustration. And, I talked to people today at the Lincoln Memorial, up where I was on my bike, in the Jefferson Memorial in East Potomac Park. And there's a lot of frustration out there with the fact that they just can't govern this country. So specifically, the shutdown affects a lot of people. It affects jobs. It affects morale for people that provide many important services.
I've heard from some conservatives, Republicans, who are frustrated with the shutdown just as you are, but they also blame the president, that there's a lack of leadership coming from the White House, organizing negotiations months ago and having conversations, having a dialogue with his Republican counterparts here on the Capitol Hill.
I think there has been some dialogues. My understanding is the president actually made a lot of personal phone calls to some of the more conservative side of the Republican Party. So I think there's been a huge effort. On the other hand, if you look at history in terms of the relationships between that side of the Republican Party and Obama and the Democrats, it's a complete no-win. So I think you get to a point maybe as a president where he's saying, you know what, you've got a law, let's see how it works. In the meantime, let's keep the country going.
All right, Gordon Hay, thanks for stopping and talking with us.
My pleasure.
And Dave, we'll be chatting with people here on Capitol Hill. As I've said, we've seen a steady stream of confused tourists walking by here, and it will be interesting to get their take, not only what they understand about this government shutdown, what may have caused it, but who they blame, and where we go from here. Back to you.
Looking forward to it, Mike. Obviously, the Capitol, just about the only place, one of the very few official buildings that is actually open today. Mike Canine for us in what they call the swamp over there on the Senate side of the Capitol. Mike, many thanks. Many visitors to the Great Falls Park in McLean, for example, saw this sign out front because of the shutdown. The National Park Service facility is closed, along with many others. Folks we talked to there, mostly disappointed. One visitor said, though, it's actually a good thing.
Well, in some ways, yeah, we're glad, I guess. If the House is supposed to originate the funding bills, and they're listening to the people for a change. So
if that's what it takes,
that's what it takes. So a small price to pay.
The Capitol Crescent Trail is also closed around here. Visitors won't be able to visit the Smithsonian Museums, the National Zoo, for example. All of those federal facilities are closed. And we're anxious to hear from you on the subject. Mike Canine is soliciting opinions from folks who are visiting up at the Capitol. You can have your say as well. You can do it a number of ways. On Facebook at News Channel 8. You can also tweet us at News Channel 8. However you do it, let us hear from you. We are anxious to get your view. Coming up on 9 minutes now past 2 o'clock, Let's get a check on the forecast out there. At the very least, it's a nice day outside.
Well,
Devin.
if there's anything with the sun shining through, it is the actual sun shining through. Just a few clouds today. Low temperatures this morning edging on being cool to even nearing mild. We were into the lower to mid-50s, even just around 60 in some spots for those low temperatures today. 54, mid-50s, lower to mid-50s around the Washington suburbs. Even the farthest communities outside of Washington with those low temperatures this morning, we're only into about the mid-50s.